Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about, in honour of its 50th anniversary, the 1976 mobster musical comedy Bugsy Malone. And it is the Prohibition era in the US. A mobster named Roxy Robinson is pursued by members of a rival gang who corner him in an alleyway and blast him with whipped cream via the means of rapid-fire cream-shooting splurge guns. Once so splurged, we are told, a gangster is all washed up, finished. Now, Roxy worked for Fat Sam Staccato, a mob boss who runs the Grand Slam Speakeasy, as well as a host of other illicit activities, such as a secret sarsaparilla brewing operation. Fat Sam rants about the loss of Roxy, who was one of his best men, laying the blame on up-and-coming rival mob boss Dandy Dan and worrying that Dan is trying to take control of his criminal empire. Meanwhile, aspiring singer Blousy Brown, who wants a job at the speakeasy, meets penniless boxing promoter Bugsy Malone. Bugsy's efforts to flirt are interrupted by Dandy Dan's men, who burst into the speakeasy and shoot up the place. Over the next few weeks, Bugsy continues his efforts to win Blousy's affections, while in turn dodging the advances of the chanteuse Tallulah. Tallulah is Fat Sam's girl, and Bugsy has no intention of crossing the mob boss. Fat Sam has other things on his mind, though. The splurge guns give Dandy Dan's men a massive advantage in the ongoing gang war, and Sam is rapidly losing ground to his dapper nemesis. With his criminal career on the ropes, Sam is desperate to hire more men. Since Bugsy is equally desperate to build up funds, how else will he take Blousy to Hollywood and make her a star? Our protagonist finds himself drawn into the gang war. The question is, can he get out of it again before he gets splurged? So writer Alan Parker first created the character of Bugsy Malone as a way of passing the time in long car trips with his 4 children. His kids would ask him questions and he would make up the answers, extemporaneously building up a character biography and set of adventures. Already an award-winning TV director, Parker was keen to write and direct his first feature film, and when British film producers rejected his initial ideas as too parochial, Parker reincarnated Bugsy Malone as a mob musical script. At the suggestion of his eldest son, he planned to cast child actors in all the roles, which would help retain the light-hearted, family-friendly tone of his old car trip stories. The film was hugely successful at the UK box office, came quickly to British television, which is how I first encountered it, and remained a much-loved film in the UK for decades thereafter. In 2005, for instance, it made Channel 4's list of 100 greatest family films. It also enjoyed a positive critical response in both the UK and the US. Both Siskel and Ebert gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4, for instance. But Paramount, who had the US distribution rights, didn't seem to have a plan for the movie. They gave it only a limited release, mostly in second-tier theatres within the US. Which is a shame because although it has flaws, I think Bugsy Malone is on the whole an engaging, enjoyable kids' film. So, let's talk about some of its more notable features. And let's start with the fact that Jodie Foster, yes, the Jodie Foster, is in this film playing the vampish Tallulah. Although only 13 years old at the time, Foster was already an experienced actor. She'd been performing almost a decade at this point, and was fresh off the back of making Taxi Driver, a performance for which she would receive an Oscar nomination. As director Alan Parker observed, she probably knew more about filmmaking than he did at the time. Foster is certainly clearly streets ahead of the rest of the cast in craft and charisma, so much so that it actually becomes something of a problem for the film. Poor old Florrie Duggar, who plays Bugsy's romantic interest Blousy, is simply no match for Foster in terms of screen presence. It probably didn't help that Duggar was a last-minute casting choice for the role after the original Blousy had a growth spurt that made her too tall, and she had to be replaced. It does lead to the question of why Bugsy is so determined to pursue the slightly insipid Blousy, given the evident interest that the far more impressive Tallulah exhibits in him. The film does address this, having Bugsy dodge Tallulah because he is scared of Sam, but I'm scared is a pretty bad motivation for a protagonist to pick their romantic interest. That had been better to have Bugsy recognise that Tallulah's interest is insincere. She would soon abandon him if he did succumb to her wiles. In any case, as might be expected, Foster is great as Tallulah, comfortably commanding every scene she's in, even when she's miming a song, which brings me to the fact that poor communication between Alan Parker and the film's composer, Paul Williams, led to perhaps the most jarring oddity of the movie. The songs are all performed by adult singers with the kids miming to them. This was because Parker told Williams that he didn't want squeaky kids' voices for the songs, but he gave no real direction on what he did want. Williams took the statement to mean, don't just write the music and lyrics, go and record the final songs using adult singers. The completed songs didn't arrive at the production until the pre-shoot rehearsals, too late for any other performance plan, then use them as they are to be feasible. Which is a problem not just because the kids are obviously miming in their scenes, but because the voices aren't at all a good match for the on-screen performers. Even if the lip sync of the miming was perfect, and it very much isn't, it would still be eerie and unconvincing to hear these voices apparently coming from those mouths. For instance, the singing voice for Tallulah is far too high register, giving Foster's distinctive speaking voice, and there are several instances where tiny kids end up miming to very deep male voices. Now, I'm not alone in thinking the final result doesn't work that well. Both Alan Parker and Paul Williams have expressed discomfort with the outcome and acknowledged that they perhaps should have done something else. I would suggest talking to each other would have probably been the first step. Now, Parker and his team have, in general, done a great job of making a mobster movie into a kid-friendly film. The design elements they've used for this are great fun, such as the pedal-powered vintage cars the kids all drive around. To this day, I crack a smile when I see the silent movie-style car chase scenes, complete with post-production engine noises using these props. Then there's the splurge guns. I bet I wasn't alone, in wishing as a teenager that I could get my hands on one of these things. Alas, it turns out that they are mostly a product of movie magic. In reality, they just shot ping pong balls with judicious editing, making it look like the characters were getting blasted with cream for them. There's a great concept, though. How do you have a bunch of characters get harmlessly killed off on screen in a kids' movie? Make it a cream pie to the faces. You're out of the show. And this clever conceit, whipped cream as bullets, does, however, lead to a problem with the movie's ending. So if you don't want spoilers for how things wrap up, you should stop this video now. But if you're still here, the thing is, the movie ends with this huge whipped cream battle. By the end of it, almost everyone is covered in cream, which, by the logic of the movie, means almost everyone is dead. But I guess we're supposed to forget that and accept that all their issues are solved when they decide to stop fighting and have an impromptu sing-along instead. Now, to be fair, Bugsy and Blousy do escape the scene essentially unsmeared. So the core duo is supposed to be rooting for do get out okay. They're not dead or creamed or splurged or whatever. And I doubt the kids who are the main target audience will care over much. There's plenty of spectacle to keep them amused. There's a certain age where people getting covered in cream is hilarious. But certainly for me, coming to this now as an older viewer, it did strike an oddly off-key note. Next time, the schlocky 1959 murder mystery The Bat, which is a movie based on a play that was itself based on a book. So if somebody wrote a novelisation of this film, we'd have the full circle of life. But that is next time. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've seen Bugsy Malone, let me know what you thought of it.